Hey, YouTube. So I wanted to challenge myself to try and do like a video a week, and I'm trying to do really hard to not judge myself on the content or quality, and to just get into the habit of doing something, creating something on a weekly basis. So this is that. This is my edition of that. I was just on and I know like the last thing I posted to anyone who watched it was like an unboxing video, which went kind of awkwardly, and I don't have any plans on like having a regular theme for any of these. It's all just going to be random stuff happening in my life. Today, the thing that kind of inspired me to do this was I was on a thread in Reddit. It was an Ask Reddit, and it was like, what is the worst thing you know? Like, what is the worst fact you know? People are posting all these horrible things about like brain aneurysms and how likely that is to happen to you. Some horrible thing, I don't remember the scientific name, but it was like you can have these like folded proteins in your body. They can bump into other proteins in your body and then cause them to fold, and then it just kind of spreads through your whole body, and there's no way to stop it or undo it, and then you just die. Apparently mad cow disease is one form of this disease, and that's really awful. And so then like it was just like all this really depressing shit, and then some guy was talking about fear of death, and I always hate it whenever anybody says they're afraid of dying and somebody smugly says, well, you weren't alive for the billions of years from the beginning of time until you were born, and so that'll just be the same as like the billions of years to come after you die. And it's like, okay, first of all, fuck you. Like, that does not do anything to help me not be afraid of those billions of years of nothing, because prior to me being born, there was no me to be afraid of death. So that's why that first 4 billion years or whatever was fine. This next 4 billion years is going to be preceded by this very short time that I'm alive, and that I can be conscious and aware of my life, and aware of like me being here, and of all the things that I am conscious of. The messiness of my room, the embarrassing backdrop of this TV box that I somehow still have here, my hopes and joys and fears and loves and all of the emotions and things that I've experienced. And then I have to, in that same short time span, I have to come to terms with the fact that that is going to end, and that will no longer continue, and that whatever happens after my death, it will not be me making YouTube videos and, sitting in my room watching Luke Cage and playing video games on my day off. That it will be something completely different. And so just like it's hard to move or anything like that, like it'd be like telling somebody like, oh, you're stressed out about moving. Well, just think about all the days before you moved that you, like, it's stupid. Okay. I hate it because it doesn't help. It doesn't help you deal with that pain of, trying to deal with letting go of this life. Even though it's hopefully many, many years from now, and it's not something that me or the other people in this Reddit thread are going to deal with anytime soon. Although it could be, we don't know. Anything can happen at any time, and by some people's approximation, it does happen all the time. That time is just happening. All events are happening at the same time. Anyways, so we were getting into this conversation, and this guy was talking about his fear of like, he didn't like the idea of reincarnation, because he felt like, well, if you come back, as someone else, and you don't remember your past life, that's really no different than dying. And I agree with that. Like, I read this Buddhist book once, and it was saying that you should do good deeds in this life because you're building up karma that will benefit the person in your next life, and it won't be you. Like, the book was very clear. Like, you're not going to continue. No part of you other than like your energy will continue. So your memories and consciousness will die, and this other person will get to benefit from your good deeds. It was the biggest. It was like the ultimate pay it forward, was to you can't even appreciate your good deeds because it's going to benefit this other person who you don't know. You will never know. They will never know that you did anything good. And I guess in a sense, like, that is kind of a nice thought, because then you can say like, oh, well, if I have good things in my life, then I should be grateful to, this previous person who did good deeds, and then I should continue to pay that forward. But I guess if you have like a shit life, then you're like, oh, well, my past life was an asshole, and my next life I don't care about them because no one's gonna help me. And anyways, so this guy on Reddit. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna have to pause this. I'll be right back. So, I had to go help my girlfriend with some groceries, getting them out of the car. So anyway, oops, just knock my little station here. So anyways, what I was talking about is so this guy was expressing his fear of death and like reincarnation not really being a comforting thought for him, and so then those aren't feelings. I used to really struggle with those feelings a lot and have a lot of fear around those things. You can hear my cat probably now. The whole thing has just become a huge mess. So I used to have those fears a lot, and I would I got really sick with pneumonia once, or walking pneumonia when I was in Japan, and I remember just like being in bed for like a couple weeks, and just like the whole time I just was constantly had this fear that like at any moment like my whole life could just end, and it would just be like switching off a light, and I wouldn't see anything, like everything would just be gone, and I would have no power or no control over it, and it was very paralyzing. And a couple of things have like helped me. One is really just focusing on like short-term goals. I feel like a big fear of mine more than death is not getting to accomplish things in my lifetime. And so having goals, any kind of goals, even if it's just I'm going to post a video on YouTube every week, even if it's not well made or anything, that's like just having something to like look forward to really helps. I found a couple of poems which I can link in the description. One is called Albade. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's by a guy named Philip Larkin. I really like reading that one, but I always have to read it in conjunction with another poem called When Death Comes by Mary Oliver. And I haven't read a ton of Philip Larkin, but I do like his stuff. Mary Oliver I've read a bit more of, and she's fantastic. So I highly recommend just picking up one of her books and reading through it, because her poetry is just breathtaking. Very like to me, like when people talk about like America being great, I feel like artists like Mary Oliver are the epitome of that, because she really writes about America and like the land and just being here. She's like Edward Abbey or any of those people, like people who really kind of I don't know. I just think like to me those are the people that we should have on our money, right? Like these artists instead of politicians, because politicians pass laws and those definitely shape society, but I just feel like the reason that any of that matters is because we have art. Anyways, that, and then reading those two poems really helps. And then the last thing was the thought that who I was yesterday is no longer alive. That person is gone. Like when I went to bed last night, when I woke up again, it's like I'm a whole new person in a sense. And I feel like that's kind of true. Like maybe it's easier to think about it like further back. Like the person who I was when I was 15 is definitely no longer here. Like my thoughts are different. My likes are different. The way I dress is different. The way I look is different. My station in life is different. And so because of that, it's kind of like that person is dead in a way, but they're not totally dead, right? Because I still have my name. I still, all of the things that have happened between 15 and 35 have led up to me being this person now. And so I think that, in a sense, like maybe death is kind of like that. Like we don't really know what happens, and it's very easy to say like, well, nothing happens because we don't know. Just like I'm sure, like maybe people at some point just pointed to the ocean and said like, there's nothing out there, because they didn't know, and you can only really deal with what you can see in front of you. And I don't know. I just think that consciousness is such a curious thing, and to think that it would just end, it's kind of sad. And I just want to believe that somehow some tiny strand of that continues. And maybe you don't retain all your memories, maybe you don't retain all of your personality, but that there's something there. So anyways, that was the thought for that. This is coming up on 10 minutes. I don't know how I talk so much. Like it really felt like, I'll just chat, rant for about 3 minutes or so, and now it's 10 minutes. So anyways, there's that. If you watch this, thank you. And if not, well, there's billions of other YouTube videos to watch. So hope you're having a good day.